250 miles above the surface of the Earth, the International Space Station drifts through the silent vacuum. Inside the command module, William Shepard stares at the environmental readings with a sudden chill running down his spine. The temperature controls are completely offline. Critical errors flash across the main console in rapid succession. The life support systems keeping 3 human beings alive are failing catastrophically. At that exact same moment, down in the humid darkness of a messy bedroom in Florida, a teenager hits the enter key. A pale blue light illuminates the face of 15-year-old Jonathan James. He is not a seasoned cyber terrorist or an international spy. He is just a kid wearing pajamas, surrounded by empty pizza boxes and science fiction memorabilia. Yet he holds absolute power. With a single keystroke, Jonathan initiates the unauthorized transfer of classified aerospace technology. He is silently downloading $1.7 million worth of the most secure software ever coded by human hands. This is the exact same proprietary source code responsible for maintaining atmospheric conditions aboard the orbital station. The United States government believes their digital fortresses are entirely impenetrable. They are completely wrong. The sheer audacity of the intrusion baffles the greatest security minds in the nation. The most powerful military and scientific establishment in human history is completely defenseless against a curious juvenile with a dial-up internet connection. Jonathan does not employ sophisticated military-grade hardware to breach these seemingly invincible walls. He simply finds the digital cracks that brilliant engineers arrogantly leave wide open. But the most terrifying aspect of this unprecedented cyber heist is the motive behind it. The intruder is not trying to hold the space agency hostage for a massive financial ransom. He does not plan to sell the life support source code to hostile foreign intelligence agencies. Money and political power mean absolutely nothing to him. Jonathan James is doing this simply because he is bored. Within a span of 3 years, this quiet boy will infiltrate the most heavily fortified networks on the planet. He will hack into the Pentagon and crack through the supposedly secure systems of the Defense Department. He will expose fundamental security flaws that could easily cripple the national defense infrastructure of the United States. He will achieve all of this between finishing his high school homework and playing video games. Federal agents eventually label him as the most dangerous juvenile cyber criminal in American history. They paint a picture of a digital mastermind orchestrating complex attacks from the shadows. His victims view him as a walking security nightmare, capable of bringing down global networks. But his neighbors only know him as a polite kid who rarely leaves his house and watches far too much television. To Jonathan himself, breaking into these classified government databases is not a malicious act of cyber warfare. He views every breached firewall and bypassed security protocol as a personal educational exercise. The digital world is his playground, and bypassing federal security is the ultimate puzzle. He leaves notes for network administrators pointing out their fatal vulnerabilities. He expects gratitude for his unsolicited security audits. However, the justice system does not share his enthusiasm for unauthorized educational research. When the largest credit card theft in history goes down 8 years later, powerful people demand a scapegoat. They need a legendary mastermind to take the fall for a crime wave they cannot control. Someone decides that the boy who once hacked the space station is the perfect candidate for their narrative. This invisible authority figure has never met Jonathan and has never bothered to check the actual evidence. They simply need a famous name to satisfy the public outcry and close a high-profile case. In doing so, they condemn an innocent genius to an unbearable fate. This is the tragic story of how America destroyed one of its most brilliant cybersecurity minds for the sake of convenience. Junghai. The year is 1989 in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Pinecrest, Florida. It is the kind of peaceful town where children still ride bicycles without helmets and parents know all their neighbors by name. Robert James sits at his kitchen table debugging complex lines of code. Programming is his profession, but to his 6-year-old son, Jonathan, the glowing screen looks like pure magic. Streams of green text flow continuously across the black monitors like a secret language. These typed commands force the machines to obey every instruction without question. The young boy watches intently and asks his father what the strange words actually do. Robert simply replies that the code tells the computer exactly how to think. Within just a few months, the curious child completely claims the family computer for himself. While other first graders are merely learning how to tie their shoelaces, Jonathan is already learning to pick digital locks. His parents notice his obsessive behavior and install basic software controls to limit his screen time. They believe these precautions are perfectly secure and completely adequate for a child his age. They underestimate his intellect entirely. Jonathan easily bypasses their restrictions in a single afternoon, leaving them utterly baffled. By the age of 10, the boy is consuming dense programming manuals the way other kids read comic books. He studies complex programming languages and advanced operating systems with a relentless hunger for knowledge. He masters network protocols and technical documentation that regularly defeat college students. His parents grow deeply worried about his profound isolation. Normal kids play outside with friends, but Jonathan prefers the endless possibilities of cyberspace. His obsession reaches a breaking point when he uninstalls the default operating system on the family computer without asking for permission. He wipes the familiar software completely and replaces it with a highly customized system favored by security experts. When confronted about the drastic change, the 12-year-old coldly explains that the old system has far too many vulnerabilities. The arguments inside the suburban home escalate rapidly. Jonathan routinely vanishes into the digital realm until 3 in the morning. He emerges from his darkened room only for school and meals. His academic grades suffer terribly, but not from a lack of intelligence. He is simply crippled by overwhelming boredom. Why should a genius memorize useless historical dates and basic mathematical formulas when he possesses the power to explore hidden computer networks spanning the entire globe? When his frustrated parents finally confiscate his beloved machine, Jonathan reacts with extreme measures. He does what any rational but highly obsessed teenager would do under those circumstances. He packs his bags and runs away from home. He adamantly refuses to return until they restore his digital lifeline. 3 days later, his defeated parents hand the computer back, thinking they are merely dealing with typical teenage rebellion. They are entirely wrong about the nature of his defiance. They are not raising a normal, rebellious teenager going through a phase. They are actually harboring a digital savant who is quietly preparing to become the most wanted juvenile hacker in American history. The summer of 1999 arrives with unbearable humidity pressing against the bedroom windows. Inside the cool room, Jonathan sits bathed in the glow of 3 monitors. His nimble fingers dance across the mechanical keyboard with blazing speed. He is not breaking into corporate systems for financial gain because stealing money is incredibly boring to him. He is not lifting credit card numbers or copying personal identification files like a common petty thief. Jonathan is actively hunting for a prize far more valuable than physical cash. In the underground hacker, community reputation stems from one specific thing. True respect is earned by demonstrating elite technical skills against seemingly impossible targets. Operating under a secret online alias, he spends months steadily building his digital reputation. He starts with small victories by infiltrating university networks and corporate databases. He carefully documents every single breach and reports the fatal vulnerabilities directly to the network administrators. He politely tells them exactly how to fix the flaws he just exploited. But these minor corporate conquests quickly become dull and unfulfilling routine. Jonathan desperately needs bigger and much more dangerous challenges to test his evolving capabilities. And what target could possibly be more impossible than the classified networks of the United States government? Those systems are supposed to be impregnable digital fortress walls without any cracks. He is about to prove that every fortress has a hidden back door. September brings the ultimate challenge that will change the course of his young life forever. Somewhere in the vast ocean of cyberspace, Jonathan discovers a server that looks completely ordinary. It has a generic internet address and seemingly standard security measures in place. There is absolutely nothing special about this digital doorway. The teenager has no idea he is preparing to walk straight into the highly classified networks of the Pentagon. The Defense Threat Reduction Agency server sits securely in Virginia, 25 miles from the capital. The physical security surrounding the facility is absolute military grade. There are heavily armed guards patrolling the perimeter and advanced biometric scanners guarding every single door. Multiple layers of physical protection stand ready to stop any conventional intruder dead in their tracks. But Jonathan is not a conventional threat, and he never uses physical force. From his messy bedroom in Florida, he finds the exact weakness that armed guards cannot protect against. He discovers a terrifying combination of lazy password policies and unpatched software vulnerabilities. The intrusion begins like all his other educational exercises, with extreme patience. He conducts quiet reconnaissance and maps the entire network architecture while scanning for hidden vulnerabilities. He does not smash through digital walls like a reckless movie hacker. Instead, he patiently searches until he finds the unlocked digital windows that arrogant administrators left wide open. When he finally gains access, Jonathan quietly installs his personal digital signature. It is a brilliant backdoor program that will allow him to return whenever he pleases without triggering any alarms. Then he simply begins exploring the vast digital landscape. The government server is an absolute goldmine of incredibly sensitive information. He easily accesses defense contractor emails and scrolls through restricted military personnel databases. He intercepts highly classified communications flowing constantly between senior Pentagon officials and active field operatives. For 3 entire weeks, the teenager wanders through these secure military networks like he owns them. He intercepts over 3,000 encrypted messages without breaking a sweat. He downloads the master usernames and administrative passwords for 19 critical military computers. He gains unrestricted access to at least 10 massive systems containing official Defense Department secrets. And he accomplishes all of this from a cluttered teenage bedroom surrounded by science fiction toys and empty soda cans. But achieving total Pentagon access is merely a warm-up exercise. It is incredibly impressive, but it is definitely not his final endgame. He wants a prize far more complex and prestigious. He wants the space agency. On a muggy evening in July, the flight director at Mission Control in Houston reviews the orbital operations. Everything appears completely nominal, and the vital life support systems function perfectly. The commander, floating 200 miles above the Earth, adjusts the environmental controls with absolute trust. They rely entirely on the complex software keeping the fragile crew alive in the unforgiving void. Neither of them suspects a catastrophic security breach is imminent. Back on Earth, the young hacker is not thinking about the magnificent exploration of the cosmos. Tonight, he is strictly hunting for digital treasure hidden deep within government mainframes. The space agency values their highly classified atmospheric recycling algorithms at nearly $2 million. To the 15-year-old boy, it just looks like a fantastic opportunity for free programming education. He quietly downloads the massive files while waiting for his dinner. Downstairs, his mother calls him to the table completely unaware of his monumental digital heist. He casually bookmarks a complex section of the stolen aerospace code and heads down to eat. At the kitchen table, he politely passes the salt while the best engineers in the country suddenly panic. Security alarms blaze across the agency, monitoring screens as administrators detect the massive data hemorrhage. The entire system goes into immediate lockdown mode. Desperate officials order a complete network shutdown that will eventually cost tens of thousands in system downtime. They desperately need to audit every single line of code to ensure the safety of their astronauts. They scramble to understand how an invisible ghost bypassed their most advanced cybersecurity measures. They have absolutely no idea that the brilliant mastermind is currently arguing with his parents about eating his vegetables. The real hunt begins now. No crime is ever entirely perfect. Despite his undeniable brilliance, the young hacker leaves behind microscopic digital footprints. The massive download of the aerospace source code triggers an automated failsafe deep within the federal servers. The sudden system anomaly forces a complete shutdown of critical space agency communications. Furious administrators immediately contact federal law enforcement to report the unprecedented breach of national security. The hunt for the invisible ghost officially begins. Cybercrime specialists from the Federal Bureau launch a massive investigation into the catastrophic intrusion. They meticulously trace the digital pathways backward through a complex labyrinth of masked addresses and bounced signals. The brilliant teenager thinks he is completely untraceable, but he severely underestimates the relentless resources of the United States government. Elite technicians slowly unravel the tangled web of routing protocols. They finally pinpoint the exact origin of the devastating cyber attack. The highly sophisticated tracking software does not lead the furious agents to a hostile foreign intelligence base. It does not point toward an organized syndicate of international cyber terrorists hiding in a remote bunker. The undeniable digital evidence leads directly to a quiet suburban neighborhood in Florida. The federal authorities simply cannot believe that a master hacker is operating from a completely ordinary family home. They prepare for a massive tactical response. On a chilly January morning, unmarked vehicles silently surround the peaceful residents on Weatherstone Drive. Heavily armed agents wearing thick bulletproof vests position themselves strategically around the perimeter of the target house. Sleepy neighbors peer through their curtains in absolute shock at the massive federal operation unfolding on their quiet street. The task force includes Defense Department investigators and space agency security officials. They are ready to neutralize a major national threat. Inside the house, Jonathan is abruptly shaken awake by his terrified mother. She frantically whispers that armed federal agents are standing at their front door. The teenage boy climbs out of bed and looks through his bedroom window at the overwhelming tactical force outside. The exhilarating fantasy of his invincible digital empire shatters instantly. He slowly walks toward the front door, wearing nothing but his pajamas. He is still rubbing sleep from his eyes. The heavily armed tactical team storms into the house, expecting to confront a hardened cybercriminal. Instead, they come face to face with a groggy 15-year-old boy who looks completely harmless. The commanding officer officially places the bewildered teenager under arrest for unauthorized access to federal computer systems. The agents immediately begin seizing every piece of electronic equipment in the house. They confiscate his computer monitors and endless stacks of compact discs. The determined investigators tear through the messy bedroom, searching for any evidence of international espionage or corporate sabotage. They even confiscate his science fiction technical manuals, apparently mistaking the fictional spaceship blueprints for actual stolen aerospace schematics. The entire federal task force is utterly baffled by the bizarre crime scene. There are no encrypted communication devices or advanced military servers. There are only empty pizza boxes and a cheap desk covered in dust. During the intense federal interrogation, the young hacker does something that completely surprises the seasoned investigators. He immediately confesses to every single intrusion without asking for a defense attorney. He openly admits to downloading the space agency software and proudly explains how he installed backdoors in the Pentagon servers. He does not offer any desperate denials or attempt to minimize the extreme severity of his illegal actions. The agents are completely speechless. Jonathan treats the terrifying federal interrogation like a friendly technical debriefing. He enthusiastically explains his complex hacking methods to the bewildered agents with genuine excitement. He practically draws them a detailed map showing exactly how he bypassed their supposedly impenetrable firewalls. He points out the critical vulnerabilities in their network architecture and patiently instructs them on how to fix the broken systems. He firmly believes he is providing them with a highly valuable educational service. The veteran federal prosecutors expect to interrogate a malicious criminal mastermind intent on destroying the national defense infrastructure. Instead, they find a socially awkward teenager who genuinely believes he was conducting harmless educational research. But the unforgiving justice system does not care about his innocent intentions. The government authorities decide they must make a severe example out of this brilliant child. His ultimate punishment will set a terrifying precedent for the entire digital age. The federal judge makes history in Miami by sentencing the 16-year-old boy. Jonathan becomes the very first juvenile in the nation to face federal cybercrime convictions. The Attorney General publicly uses his case to send a harsh warning to the underground community. The court orders strict house arrest and completely bans him from recreational computer use. For a teenager whose entire identity revolves around digital exploration, the punishment is absolute torture. Without his keyboard and monitors, he loses his only connection to the outside world. He falls into deep depression and eventually violates his probation by testing positive for marijuana. Federal marshals immediately arrive with heavy handcuffs to drag the fragile boy away. He is thrown into a harsh juvenile detention facility in Alabama. The quiet genius who speaks to machines better than humans suddenly faces violent inmates and brutal gang hierarchies. Physical strength and social manipulation dictate survival in this nightmare environment. He serves 6 terrifying months behind bars and emerges permanently scarred by the brutal reality of the penal system. 8 painful years pass, and the year 2008 arrives. Jonathan is 24 years old and living completely off the grid in his childhood home. His mother has passed away from cancer, leaving him drowning in grief and isolation. He strictly keeps his promise to never hack again. Video games and prescription medicine replace his digital conquests. Far away in Massachusetts, a massive corporate disaster strikes. A major retail company announces the largest data breach in corporate history. Over 45 million customer records are stolen by a highly organized syndicate of professional cybercriminals. Federal agents scramble to identify the brilliant masterminds behind this unprecedented digital heist. They scour through encrypted chat logs searching for any clues. The desperate investigators find repeated references to a mysterious hacker known only as JJ. This unknown operative helped steal millions of credit card numbers using old-school methods. The federal database quickly runs a correlation search, combining the initials with known hacking backgrounds. The computer spits out a perfectly convenient match. Jonathan Joseph James instantly becomes their prime suspect. The federal agents practically celebrate their discovery in secure conference rooms. The narrative fits their investigation entirely too perfectly. They believe the former boy genius hit rock bottom and joined an international crime syndicate to survive. They possess motive means and geographical proximity. They simply ignore the complete lack of physical evidence linking him to the massive corporate theft. On a quiet May morning, heavily armed Secret Service agents surround the Pinecrest house once again. They execute a massive raid with the exact same tactical precision used 8 years earlier. They tear the house apart, looking for stolen financial records and encrypted communication devices. They find absolutely nothing connecting the depressed young man to the historic data breach. Despite the glaring lack of actual evidence, the federal investigation relentlessly targets him. The public pressure to close the massive retail theft case is absolutely immense. Prosecutors desperately need high-profile convictions to satisfy the angry public. Jonathan knows exactly how the merciless justice system truly operates. He knows they prefer a convenient scapegoat over the difficult truth. The young man reads survival manuals written by other destroyed hackers. He understands that law enforcement will manufacture a case simply to secure a victory. He realizes he faces decades in federal prison for a crime he absolutely did not commit. The terrifying prospect of returning to a violent cell pushes his fragile mind past the breaking point. Late at night on May 18th, Jonathan sits at his desk one final time. He writes heartbreaking letters to his family and the public explaining his tragic decision. He states clearly that he has absolutely no faith in the justice system. He refuses to let a corrupt federal machine strip away his remaining freedom and destroy his life again. He takes out a legally purchased revolver he bought for personal protection. He places the cold steel against his right temple and pulls the trigger. The boy who effortlessly bypassed the security of the space station at 15 is dead at 24. He successfully executes his final hack by permanently escaping a system that values convictions over truth. 2 years later, the real masterminds of the massive retail theft face justice in a Boston courtroom. The actual ringleader receives 20 years in federal prison. The investigation reveals a highly sophisticated network of professional criminals. The true identity of the mysterious JJ is finally uncovered as another operative entirely. Jonathan James had absolutely nothing to do with it. The tragic truth arrives far too late to save the young genius. The brilliant mind that could have helped secure global networks is gone forever. He becomes a heartbreaking casualty of the very same government establishment he accidentally exposed as a child. The file is officially closed, but the haunting legacy of the brilliant teenage ghost remains forever unresolved.